For this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with blowing and drinking.
Hello, and welcome to the Snowbrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most intelligent people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge on to you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a mountain guide, an Alaska heli ski guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of Snowbrains, and I just heard the best polar bear story of my life. My buddy JB was heli ski guiding in Greenland, and he saw something black down on the fjord ice. When he skied down low enough, he saw it was a polar bear. The wind was coming down the mountain, delivering his scent directly to the massive male bear, and it came running straight for him. He called in the heli that was fueling up in town, and the heli made a beeline straight for him. For some reason, he didn't have his gun with him, and he was defenseless. As the bear came sprinting up the mountainside in knee-deep powder, just at the last minute, he rolled his backpack down at the bear to try to distract it, to give himself a little more time as he was sidestepping uphill to try to get away from it. Then, just then, the heli showed up and buzzed between him and the bear, but the bear only hesitated and flinched a little bit, and it kept charging at him. The pilot pulled a radical maneuver, nearly flipped back towards them again, this time bumping the polar bear with the skid of the heli, which finally sent the polar bear running back down the fjord. Just an insane story. JB's only plan was to take off one ski and use it like a sword and go down swinging. Unbelievable. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Club Med. Are you ready for an unforgettable ski getaway that takes care of everything? And I mean everything. Head to one of Club Med's mountain resorts where you can experience the thrill of the slopes without worrying about a thing. With their all-inclusive packages, you'll get all your lift tickets, ski passes, ski and snowboard lessons for all ages and ski levels, delicious meals, exciting apres-ski activities, and even childcare for the kids, all included in the price. So you can focus on what matters most, carving perfect turns and enjoying the breathtaking views. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to book your ski escape today. My guest today is Stephanie Cox. Stephanie is the CEO of the National Ski Patrol, an organization with over 30,000 members who operate at 650 ski areas worldwide. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here. How are you today?
Hi, Miles. Thanks for having me. I'm excellent.
Great. And when did you ski last?
When did I ski last? Oh, I'll tell you when. April last year at Vail. And the reason why I know this, because my memory is starting to fail me a little bit more these days, is because I just went to get my skis tuned, and it had a little sticker on it from the Hythe Hotel in Vail. And they had to peel it off. And the reason why I had that sticker on it is that was the first time I ever valeted my skis in my entire life. Which
Whoa.
It sounds really bougie, and it's not how we roll at Ski Patrol. But we were in our training event, and I was in and out from the hotel to the ski area. And so I was like, y'all need to valet my skis. And it was fantastic. So that's how I know. And that was like mid to actually late April last year.
Oh, nice. That's cool. I've never done that. I think they have that at Deer Valley. I have to go check it out. I love that.
First time in my entire ski life that I've ever done it.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I got to check that out. How many days do you ski per winter usually?
Are we at the age where we still count? I don't know. Oh, I will have to say, I surprisingly ski less now that I'm in the industry doing what I do than I did, for example, when I was in grad school.
I believe it.
I get to ski different places now than I normally ski, which is really neat. Hard to say. I really don't know. I really don't count anymore.
So many people don't. It freaks me out because I'm so meticulous. I have a spreadsheet.
I know you just up the number 200, which is phenomenal. I can tell you, I am not nowhere near that.
Well, Stephanie, today I really want to dig into what the National Ski Patrol is, what your role there entails, your sponsored athlete ambassador program, and a bunch more. But to start, I'd love to hear your quick and dirty life story because I've read a little bit about it and it's fascinating. And it can go over 3 minutes, but I really want to learn about all these interesting things that you've done in your life.
Well, I'll try to be quick and I'll leave out the dirty part. How's that?
I don't know. I
Um,
think we want the dirty part now.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia, but I will say that I quickly became a global citizen. I got out of there as soon as I could. I kind of went south for a while as a journalist. Then I decided to head over across the pond and work as a journalist in Prague and in Budapest for a while and teach English. And while it was like a great short career and it taught me like the power of words, as you know, right? And
Yes.
thinking and all that good stuff, it was not lucrative. And so I quickly ran out of money and I called home. I remember this because I was on, you remember payphones? So yeah,
Oh yeah.
I was on a I was on a payphone in Hungary and I was talking to one of my sisters. I have two other sisters, and they were like, why don't you just come to Colorado? Because they're out in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And why don't you apply to grad school and just come out and we can all ski together? And I was like, that sounds like an awesome idea. So I applied to DU. I got into DU, into what at the time we called it the Jesus School, the Graduate School for International Studies.
Nice.
And I got in and I skied my way through grad school with my sisters, and it was one of the best times in my life. It was really awesome. That was in like 1999, and I was just hooked and based myself out of Colorado for the rest of my career. But that was the start of my second career. I quickly connected with a local organization that did international humanitarian supply chain development work. I went to them as a grad student and I said, hey, I know you guys do this work in Africa. Why don't you send me? And I'll do a heuristic study of your supply chain. I didn't know what I was talking about. And they were like, sure. No one's ever asked us. So off I go on a plane, landed in Zambia, and spent 3 months in the back of a pickup truck, bumping around in rural areas in Zambia, interviewing farmers about their water needs. Yeah, that was quite an adventure. And I ended up staying with that organization for over 13 years. So I started as a grad student and I left as the vice president of marketing and development. Uh,
Congrats. Wow.
Thanks. But, along the way, I ended up living in Kathmandu, Nepal for 3 years during the
Whoa.
war. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that was really great and harrowing, I would say. But over the 3 years, well, over the 10-year war, 10,000 people were killed by the Maoists. Um,
Whoa.
the
In
organization
Nepal.
in Nepal, yeah.
Okay.
And the Maoists are in a shared government situation right now.
Wow.
So they kind of half won. But yeah, so when I lived there, it was in a war environment, and we were working with the rural areas to try to rehabilitate their land. And we were one of the only global organizations able to do the work. And it was really scary because we would have like bombs on bridges on the way to work and elephants in the streets. And my
Whoa.
team was arrested at one point and tear gassed, and I had a gun to my head at one point at an ATM. I mean, it was wild.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds intense.
Well, when people say the ski industry is a tough industry, I think to myself, I think I developed some good chops early on in my career.
Yeah,
So with
absolutely.
challenges in my life. But yeah, so that was 3 years in Kathmandu, and then I was called back to headquarters in Colorado, and then I was sent to Africa. I was based in Colorado, but then I went back and forth between Colorado and Africa, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Ghana, other places in Africa for, oh gosh, for years, doing the same sort of work, managing a very large project, $40 million project. And after 13 years, I decided that was enough. I left the organization and I actually went over to the private sector and started running a company called Nocaro, which was a startup in solar technology. I stayed there for less than a year because I don't know if you know. Oh my gosh, founders are amazing people, brilliant people, but boy, can they be really tough to work for, right?
They're very singular
Yeah,
and
yeah,
myopic.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes not so nice, I would say. So,
Oh yeah, I've
uh,
heard that too.
yeah,
And
so it's,
along with the VCs, right? The venture capital, it's a really strange place to be.
oh my gosh, exactly. And so that's where I tell like so like I was like immersed in a boys club, really, like in this
Hmm.
startup boys club with angel investors and VCs. And I mean, it was amazing. But then after about a year and a half of that, I was like, well, if this guy can run a startup, then I can. And so I went and I created my own business and I
Good for
launched
you.
I ran that for 6 years. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I raised capital and worked with VCs, and they asked the toughest questions. Yeah, and it was at the time, like it was in the tech industry, total boys club. So
Oh
I
yeah.
learned I could roll in a boys club pretty easily.
Hmm.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. But as the startup story goes, after 6 years of running this sort of global humanitarian marketplace, we ran out of money. I had to make a decision. And so I decided to scale it down and to look for my next adventure. So that next adventure was working with a global organization called World Child Cancer. And that was a bunch of doctors and nurses that we trained internationally for the diagnosis and treatment for kids with cancer, which was phenomenal work. And so I stayed there for 3 years, running their operations, folded their operations into the operations in the parent company in the UK. And then I was like, what am I going to do next? And my best friend, Kev, he was like, hey, Steph, I see this job description for an organization called National Ski Patrol. You should take a look at it. And I thought at first, I was like, well, that's not in my wheelhouse. I've not been
Hmm.
in the outdoor industry. I mean, I'm an avid skier, I'm a mountain bike coach. My brother-in-law was a ski patrol at Aspen Highlands for
Oh,
28 years.
cool.
I blame him for all of this, by the way. He was the one who encouraged me to take up this role. And the patrollers at Aspen Highlands were awesome. They practically adopted me. They were part of my references for this role. And so, yeah, so I applied. I said, this will be a great adventure. Let's do this. And that was 2.5 years ago.
Well, I think you're very well positioned to do this. A terrific background. Thank you for sharing all that. I love the idea. I've talked to multiple people who have been in war situations, and anything that's stressful in the real world, they always say, nobody's shooting at me. So this is not that hard. So you have that, and you have this experience being in a good old boys club, which we all know the ski industry very much is. So I think you're very well positioned to take this on. So thank you for taking this on. And I guess just to start, could you tell our listeners what is the National Ski Patrol and how long has it been around?
Yeah, I was just so excited to get on this podcast with you because I love talking to people about National Ski Patrol. It's such a iconic, venerable organization.
Yes.
Everybody, I think, can recognize, right? The shield and the cross, our logo, right? It's
Hmm.
really iconic. But a lot of people don't know what National Ski Patrol truly is. So here we go. So National Ski Patrol was formed in 1938 by a gentleman named Charles Minute Dole. Minnie is what people fond of him call him. And Minnie formed the organization because he actually had a friend who was killed in a skiing accident
Oh.
back east. And he really, at that time, right, there were no ambulances pulling up to the ski areas like in the 1930s. There was no training and safety. It was kind of like the Wild West of just random skiing. So yeah, so he was like, well, I think I can help solve this problem.
Hmm.
And so he started National Ski Patrol in 1938. And the mission is to keep people safe in mountain environments, truly. It's as simple as that. And what we do as an organization is credential and train over 30,000 ski patrollers annually.
Wow.
We are an education credentialing body, and we're also a membership organization, right? We really focus on educating our first responders and their professional development. So a lot of people think we were just at a Warren and Miller event, and it was so great because like all these kids and all the stoke, and and I say to them, ski patrollers aren't just the guys and gals who like pull your pass if you're
Hmm.
goofing off too much on the hill. They're highly trained first responders, and the majority of them go through what we call our outdoor emergency care program, which was like an 80 to 120-hour medical training. So it's nothing to sneeze at. It's pretty intense. They're really first and foremost first responders. And they also don't just like take off their red jackets at the end of the day. Like they're the first responders in your community. So
Mm.
if you're walking down the street and you see a car accident and you're next to a patroller, guess who's going to respond quickly and just second nature? It's going to be that ski patroller. And in fact, every year we give out awards for our ski patrollers, and a lot of those awards they do have a lot to do with saving lives on the mountains, heroism like that, but also in the local communities. It's not always just on the mountains. So, National Ski Patrol, education, credentialing, membership body, truly, that's our lane. And then, interestingly enough, in the 1940s, during World War I, Minnie Dole saw that our troops were struggling sort of in the high alpine environment in the Alps. And so he
Hmm.
went to Congress and lobbied for the creation of the 10th Mountain Division. So some of your listeners probably have heard of the 10th
Wow.
Mountain Division, but very few people outside of our 32,000 membership community truly know that National Ski Patrol created the 10th Mountain Division.
That's
Um,
huge. That's amazing. Because yeah, the
Huge,
10th mountain in mountain
huge.
communities, the 10th mountain's quite famous.
It's so famous and it still exists today. And we're working with them even today in a whole new way, which is so exciting. Yeah, so he like lobbied Congress and he was like, let me help recruit and train your soldiers for these environments. And so Minnie was responsible for recruiting and screening and training like over 8,000 troops. And
Wow.
we were the only organization, even to this day, civilian organization to be able to do that, to recruit for the army. And it was so successful, right? And then all those folks that went off and became soldiers for the 10th Mountain came back and created, I think, over 60 ski areas, right? They were responsible for like starting, all the ones that we know here in Colorado, practically from A
Hmm.
Basin up to Aspen and others too back east. And so the history and the legacy of NSP, National Ski Patrol, is just so deep and so beautiful. And so anytime I get a chance to talk about it, it just is exciting because I want people to know about this history and this legacy.
And that is terrific. I had no idea about the 10th Mountain Division being started by Minnie and the National Ski Patrol. And then by extension, those we know that those were the people who came back and started all the ski resorts, even like Vail and all the big ones, especially in Colorado. That is truly fascinating. And so before 1938 in the National Ski Patrol, was there just no ski patrollers at all? It was just, I
There
mean,
was no organized body for training safety professionals. No.
wow. So yeah, you got hurt on the hill. And it's kind of like, hopefully you have a good buddy or just see you later.
Absolutely. And you've got to think about it because people can call patrollers sort of the FedEx, right? We pack and ship.
Right.
But you've got to be able to stabilize somebody on the mountain and then to get them safely off. And nowadays
Hmm.
you can usually get them off to like an aid room or even a medical facility at the base of the mountain, like Winter Park has and Stratton but at least you could get them to an ambulance, right? But back in the day, there was none of that. So you really had to rely on ski patrol to do a lot of that work. It was an incredible, important work that many did. And then it was so important that in 1980, Congress gave ski patrol, National Ski Patrol, a federal charter. And what that means, they don't do it anymore. Recognize the importance of the organization to the service of American citizens. And I think it's only been given out to about a handful of organizations like American Red Cross, I think, is one, and Boy Scouts is another, and National
Wow.
Ski Patrol is the other. Yeah,
That
it's
is
great.
fantastic. And they really are true to their mission, right? That cross on the back is essentially a medical cross saying, "Hey, we are here to help you. We are first responders." And you might have said this, but where did the National Ski Patrol start?
So we have our roots back east at Stowe in
Stowe.
Vermont.
Okay, very cool. Nice. And obviously now it's nationwide. And does it go to any other countries or is it exclusive to the USA?
Yeah, no, it's not exclusive to the US. We have about 300 patrollers internationally in our what we call our international division.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and a lot of that work is training and refreshing patrollers who live overseas and work on some of those hills overseas. And we also work with an international patrol body called FIPS, and they look to us for leadership in patrolling, education, and credentialing. But the growth internationally of skiing is huge, especially like in areas of Asia. And so we're getting a lot of interest from these countries to have us create our outdoor emergency program in their language and deliver it overseas and help them create patrols overseas. And so it's a huge growth opportunity that I see for National Ski Patrol. It's very exciting, right, to think that, we can help small startup nascent mountains overseas to get up and running faster by providing them the education and the training, almost like a business in a box, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can be there to provide that for them.
And you seem uniquely positioned to be the right CEO at the time to help with that international expansion. Is that one of the big goals for you as leader of this organization?
Well, I have a lot of goals.
I bet.
I have that entrepreneurial bug and mindset, and, I'm a very driven person. And yes, I would love to lend my international experience and knowledge to the expansion of ski patrolling all over the world. So,
Mhm.
yes, that is one of the things that I thought would be really enjoyable and challenging to work on for NSP. That and also our bike patrol, which is emerging and really exciting.
Well, yeah, you seem uniquely positioned to help with the international programs. And how many ski resorts, how many ski areas have national ski patrollers?
Yeah, so we partner a lot with the National Ski Areas Association. In fact, we're in the same building, right? So we
Oh,
have
great.
we have one building in Lakewood, Colorado here where National Ski Patrol is on the ground floor, Professional Ski Instructors Association is on the middle floor, and then National Ski Areas Association is on the top. And so it's sort of the ski building, we call it.
Hmm.
And we partner with National Ski Areas Association a lot. It's a fundamental partnership, truly. They have, I think, over 480 ski area members, and we have patrollers at all those mountains, but we have over 630 patrols. And so you might say, well, if there's 480 ski areas and you have six,
Yeah.
like, what's the math there stuff? Because it's not adding up.
Hmm.
So the reason is because we have a lot of backcountry, Nordic side country patrols as well. And so that is a big draw right now, as you know. So we don't just patrol at the resorts and the ski areas, but we also patrol on other areas and also on U.S. Forest Service land.
Well, that is fascinating because backcountry skiing is potentially the fastest growing segment in the ski industry. And so I am so curious, how does that work? How is that funded? How do we have national ski patrollers out in the backcountry?
Excellent question. So, something that you and your listeners might not know, but the majority of ski patrollers are volunteers.
Hmm.
So, they pay for their education, they pay for their uniforms often, they pay for their equipment, they pay to drive to and from the ski areas, and they volunteer their time. They pay for their education and they put themselves through this rigorous training and then they volunteer their time. So that is the majority of ski patrollers across the world. We also have within that group 5,000 members who are what we call paid professionals. And those
Hmm.
are the ones that you're probably more familiar with, from sort of west of the Mississippi. We have a lot more of those paid professional patrols. But the majority of our patrollers are volunteers, and they're often, medical professionals for their own careers. They're doctors, they're nurses, they're medics, a lot of lawyers, which is a good thing. Um,
Yeah.
so the patrollers that serve sort of like the backcountry and Nordic areas are absolutely volunteers. They're highly trained. They often have agreements with their local U.S. Forest Service. We have a memorandum of understanding globally with our U.S. Forest Service partners, but they work locally with the U.S. Forest Service and with search and rescue, with the sheriff's office often, and they form their own patrols. They're there to help educate the public when going into the backcountry, but also to help rescue you should something happen. And sometimes all people need is a Band-Aid for a boo-boo.
Hmm.
Sometimes they need to be in a toboggan, and sometimes they need to be evac'd out. Whatever the need is, ski patrol is there. And so I know that we know that during COVID and after COVID, there is a lot of backcountry access happening right now, right?
Yes.
And those patrollers, well, all of our patrollers have access to a lot of our avalanche programming, but they are really highly trained in our avalanche awareness, level 1 and level 2 courses as well.
And what drives these people to spend their time and money and energy to work for free?
Right? I mean, right, these are like these unique individuals and that are really motivated, one, by the love of the sport, right? I
Hmm.
mean, just the love of being in those boots all day, in that powder or that crud, whatever it is, but they just want to be outside. And I think it's the love of the sport. And we all know what that does, right? It gives us like such a boost in our mental health as well. And it can be an addiction,
Yes.
like a positive addiction.
Hmm.
So they're motivated by the love of the sport, but they're also highly motivated by helping people and taking care of people, right?
Hmm.
So it's that sort of ingrained kind of service mentality. And for the most part, sure, they get some benefits, right? Like pro deals and I don't even, but the benefits certainly don't outweigh the dedication, the hours, the financial commitment that they make. Their main driver, once they get in, is because it becomes family. It's your
Oh, I
family,
like that.
right? It's your community, it's your family. I mean, these people, they go on vacations together, right? Like our patrollers, like their Christmas parties together. They just love and support each other. And that keeps them totally coalesced as a team, which is so important, right? A patrol is a team, becomes a family. And that's really what retains our patrollers.
I believe that. And because, yeah, that sense of belonging is so important to us as human beings. So just huge. And I think that I get pretty much all of that in my life comes from skiing in my ski community.
Exactly. You must have that too. Like you've got your tribe, right?
Oh, yeah.
These are our tribes. And it's that you just hit the nail on the head. It's a sense of belonging. And I'm sure you have that. And that's probably what keeps you doing what you do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I'm tied to really specific places too, because, I've built these communities in these mountain towns and it's really important to me. It makes me feel good. So I'm curious, what would you say are the main responsibilities of national ski patrollers and how do their duties differ from the professional ski patrollers?
The main responsibilities of patrollers are to keep people safe and treat people when they're injured. And keeping people safe really has to do with the education component for the public. So making sure that the public knows the skier's responsibility code. And if you don't know it, you should know it. Working with ski area operators and staff on, where to post this to keep people safe, right? Where to put up fencing, where to identify obstacles and risks. A lot of risk management is a patroller's job. And in fact, we just created an incredible course on outdoor risk management because it is becoming so important. Patrollers have to really work with mountain operations and the staff to make sure that the public really knows, what their responsibility is. And then also to make sure that the mountain is skiable and rideable and that, we minimize, we're never going to get rid of all the risks, right? But
Hmm.
help to minimize the risk. And then, of course, should an accident happen, that responding to that accident is second nature to the patroller and that they are very well versed in medical trauma and emergencies and how to treat victims and how to get them to a safe place.
Well, I really like that because I love medicine. And essentially, these people are involved in medicine in two different ways, really preventative medicine, trying to keep you, corral people into the safer zones and keep them away from dangers. And then, obviously, if people do get hurt, they are terrific and very impressive first responders that can get you stable and to higher level of care or whatever you need medically. And so that is invaluable out there, right? And
Have
I
you
think
ever have you ever had an encounter with a ski patroller?
well, yeah. So I blew my ACL in my knee in Argentina,
Oh,
and I was a little bit in the side country, so I limped back to the ski resort. And the first person to ski by me was a ski patroller, and he saw that I was acting weird, and he just came right up to me and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I told him about my knee, and he asked me where it hurt, and I was like, I'm a man. I'm gonna ski to the bottom though. And he's like, "You could do that, and in doing that, you could damage more ligament and make this thing even worse." He's like, "Why don't you just sit down?" And I just sat down. I was no
love it.
resistance. I was like, all right, this person knows more than I do. I'm gonna sit right here. And they got a toboggan and took me down, and it was great. Yeah, and so probably, a lot of people have experienced something like that because I think a lot of us are unsure of what's happening, and these people have a lot of experience. They've seen you and your injury before.
Well, and it's funny that you said because now that you're saying that, they're often the voice of reason, right? And a
Mhm.
really
Yes.
like emotional environment, right? When you're injured, for me, I will say, my only real toboggan ride was
Hmm.
about 20 years ago, again in Vail. I
Hmm.
skiing the back bowls, and at the end of the day, was hot shotting it up front, probably tired, caught an edge right under the gondola and fell. And I tried to get up, and ski patrol was like right there. It's so weird. They're always right there, right? Like,
Somehow, yeah.
where did you come from? I didn't see you before this, and all of a sudden you're right by my side. And so
Hmm.
they were right there. And I was like, no, I got this. I can ski down. Do not put me in a toboggan.
Right.
No, I got this. And as soon as I stood up, my ankle just collapsed.
Oof.
And they were just kind of like, okay, ma'am, like okay, you just give it a shot, give it a shot. And they knew, right? They just
Yeah.
gently, let her give it a shot. And then as soon as I knew I couldn't walk, then off I go in the toboggan and then to Vail Medical Center. But they are often just that calming voice of reason too,
Mhm.
taking your vitals and talking you down and just making sure that you're okay and helping make the best decision for your medical health.
So much of medicine is psychology, and that of course extends to the National Ski Patrol. I am curious how much, there's always psychological training in medicines. I'm wondering how much they get, but I know no matter how much they get, you get a lot of on-the-job psychology training because you start to see how people react, what works, what doesn't work. And, all of us sort of behave the same, especially in these medical situations. And I'm very confident that ski patrollers have a really good idea of human psychology and what works to help people get to the best situation.
Yeah, either explicitly or just implicitly.
Yeah.
So we do focus though on professional development and leadership development within Ski Patrol. And a
Oh,
lot of
that's great.
you, I'm sure know, right? A lot of leadership development is like it's relationship based, right?
Hmm.
Ecology of dealing with and building relationships with people. And then you have to deal with that in sort of their most emotional state, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, they get a lot of on the job training, but we are providing them also more training on that aspect, giving them leadership development training. We've got a great course in the works for that. And I'm so glad you brought this up, Miles, because we're also very focused on mental health.
Great.
We've been very focused on creating sort of a couple of things, psychological safety within our patrols and with our patrol community, and also mental well-being and resources for mental health and mental health care. We're not pretending that we're going to treat anybody with mental illness or whatever, but we certainly are very focused on what Dr. Laura McGladrey calls stress awareness, and that is very applicable to patrollers. They are operating in really high stress environments, like truly the environment, which can often be gnarly and dangerous and everything else.
Oh,
But
yeah.
also, they may have seen a catastrophic injury and that you'll never get out of your head, let alone maybe a death or a tree well death. Those are horrific. So the question comes like, how do we prepare our patrollers for this and how do we give them the resources they need to deal with it? And so we've been very focused on that for the past couple of years.
Well, that's huge because I think we all know now in the modern, more aware society that first responders experience PTSD at a higher rate than normal human beings,
That's right.
because of the things they see. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Club Med. Calling all skiers and snowboarders, escape to the snowy peaks of Europe, Japan, China, or Canada with Club Med. Their more than 20 all-inclusive mountain resorts offer unparalleled convenience and endless adventures. Explore world-class ski resorts, indulge in authentic gourmet dining, and unwind with lively apres-ski activities. Let Club Med take care of everything so you can simply relax and enjoy your ski getaway. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to discover your ski paradise.
Yeah. And I'm going back to one of the words that you said when you got injured and you're like, bro, I'm a man, I can handle this, right? And so
Yeah.
that bro culture, right?
Yeah.
Like I should be able to handle this because I'm a man or I'm a tough, working ski patrol female. And I think the history is to just stuff that stuff or bury it or just,
Hmm.
and we're seeing that, especially we're seeing this change because of the younger generations that are like, that's dumb. Why am I going to stuff that stuff? Let's talk about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so they're kind of driving that change. I'm seeing a lot of young patrol directors getting elevated to those leadership positions who are implementing this type of training and really talking about feelings. And I'll go to some of these patroller roundtables at the end of the season. And, we're in a basement somewhere of a hotel and we're just having this like confidential roundtable. And someone will say who experienced a catastrophic injury or death this year, and half
Mm.
the hands will go up. And some of it was just like it was within my patrol community. And then the tears would just shed. And it was just like,
Hmm.
whoa, right? And
Yep.
I experienced that like my first I'd say 2 months on the job. And when was in that room and I felt that and saw that, I was like, we got to do something about this. We have to support each other. We have to support these people. We've got to give them the resources to deal with these situations that are really, like you said, can turn into PTSD.
And it does appear that counseling has really good outcomes with this kind of thing. So that's great that you folks are focused on that because it's something that, a lot of us, even myself, have seen. We've seen death, we've seen catastrophic injuries, and we very well may see that again. And so it's not just something to treat your past traumas, but you need to kind of have some resilience and have mental tools to deal with what you may see moving forward, especially if you're going to stay in these positions.
100%, right?
Mhm.
And it's not always you experiencing it firsthand, or it could be a colleague, a friend, an employee that you want to help, that you want to say, hey, I've noticed that I don't know, you're drinking a little bit more, you're more withdrawn, just giving them the tools it's really about recognition first.
Absolutely. And for our nerdier listeners, I have some numbers here that I think are fascinating, to be honest, because I learned just in digging this up yesterday. So the US sees around 60 million skier visits per year right now, give or take a bit. So the estimated injury rate at US ski resorts is about 1 or 2 injuries per 1,000 skier days. And a skier day is one person skiing or snowboarding one day. So if you do some quick math with the 60 million and the 1 or 2 per thousand, something like 60 to 120,000 injuries per year at ski resorts. But I looked up a pretty interesting study that showed they recorded about 200,000 skier and snowboard injuries per year in the US. And these were people that went to the emergency room. So there's also injuries that don't quite get escalated that far. And so it's an incredible number of injuries that happen out there at our ski resorts. Skiing and snowboarding is inherently dangerous. We know that. And so, these ski patrollers are hands-on with every single one of these people. It's very likely, that National Ski Patrol is dealing with something like 200,000 injuries per year and more, really, probably, because I think there's a lot of small ones that don't end up in the emergency room. So yeah, so I'm just curious if you could speak to that, if that's something that you notice, like, wow, these people are working.
Well, they are working. They're some of the hardest workers I know. So yes, we don't keep track of injury data. That is the National Skiers Association. And I actually
Mhm.
believe you might be interested in this too, Miles. They're coming out with a 10-year longitudinal study imminently. So
I
that
would love that.
that could be interesting to you. But we're there to help prevent the injuries, to keep people to ride and ski safe, and we're there when they do get injured. The interesting statistic is that not this last season we saw a slight dip, but the season before we had more skier and rider visits than ever.
Over 65 million.
Exactly. So the
Mhm.
industry is growing, and that's putting pressure on the ski areas. It's putting pressure on the patrollers. It's putting the
Mhm.
need for patrollers out there even more. Longer hours and the need for more numbers of patrollers in order to keep the guests safe. So this presents a real, I would say, opportunity for National Ski Patrol. And again, if your listeners are hearing this, that, we are always in recruiting mode. Um,
Get out
so
there.
Get out, yeah. So we are looking for folks that are avid about the mountains and the mountain environments, whether you ski or you mountain bike. We need all patrollers for all seasons. But for the skiing community, the growth just means that we need more patrollers. And, to be honest, too, like our volunteer base is aging, right?
A lot of baby boomers, probably, right?
Exactly,
Hmm.
right? And so we're looking for really our, young people to come in and start maybe as young adult patrollers, right? And do it as, high school credit or college credit. And then they may go off into the world and have another career. They may choose patrolling as a career, but they may come back later in life and we see this and volunteer.
Yes.
Right. So now they have a
Hmm.
little bit more professional development, career development under their belts. They may have a little bit more money saved up in the bank account, and they can
Hmm.
come back and they can volunteer as professionals too. Or we're looking for those, those midlife, those midlifers, right? Who are like, I need more purpose in my life. And,
Hmm.
so yeah, we're always recruiting because we have a big need to fill. And to be honest, even the recruiting cycle is a long cycle because it can take a long time to go through the recruiting process and the training process.
I know,
So
I love that. I feel like if the message right now, one of the messages, if you're having a midlife crisis, call National Ski Patrol. We will give you purpose and meaning and fun and community. And then I think you're also obviously getting young people is good, right? We always want, I even say that with snow brands, right? We want cradle to grave. And so I think one cool thing that you guys are doing is the sponsored athlete ambassador program, which I think maybe is part of getting younger folks excited. So tell us about that and what that is and what your goals are.
Yeah, so excited to talk about this and very relevant. Great segue. So, about a year ago, I started thinking about the MSP brand, and I love brands, right? Like I love big brands. I love marketing. I love all of that. And so I study brands, and I was thinking, how do you take an 85-year-old iconic organization into the future, and how do you put sort of a new face on it? And as I was looking at different brands and I was thinking about all of this, I came across the story of Old Spice. And I don't know if you know this story, but it's awesome.
No, Old Spice, like the deodorant brand.
The deodorant brand.
Okay. Okay.
So Old Spice was founded exactly in the same time National Ski Patrol was, 1938.
Oh, wow.
And Old Spice for the longest, so it was actually started as a fragrance for women.
Okay.
And women were like, ooh, no.
Yeah, old.
So they pivoted and they started marketing it to men, but the women were buying it for the men. So that was all fine and great. And it took off, right? It became this great brand. And it was like the brand my grandfather wore, the brand your grandfather, your great grandfather wore, right? But then, like the year 2000 hit, and all of a sudden you had all these competitors. And if you've ever been to a high school, you have smelled Axe body spray,
Oh, yes. Oh my
head to
gosh.
toe, right?
Yeah. South America too. It's insane.
It's
Yeah.
insane, right? That just came on and just started to eclipse Old Spice.
hmm
So they got a brand agency, and the brand agency was like, well, we need to update, like, we need to do something big. You guys
hmm
are like, the people think of your grandfather when they think of Old Spice, right?
Yeah.
So the brand agency came up with this brilliant idea. They came with a new brand ad campaign, and they launched it during the Super Bowl. Now, mind you, like, you've got to have billions of dollars to do this, right? Ski Patrol,
Right.
we have and so they launched it during the Super Bowl and they launched it on YouTube. They were making fun of themselves, right? And they were putting this like buff guy on a horse and it was just a huge hit and it
Uh-huh.
took the brand around within 4 years and it became like one of the top selling brands again,
Gosh, all marketing.
all marketing, right?
Unreal.
And it was this really buff African American man on a white horse
hmm
being funny in the shower. And, it was modern and it was young and it was fresh and it was inclusive. It was all of it, right?
hmm
And so when I came across, I was like, there you go. You can take an 85-year-old company, organization, and you
hmm
can give it a new look and feel.
hmm
And so I gave it a lot of thought and I thought, okay, well, we're not going to mess with the shield, right? It's like,
hmm
we're not going to mess with our brand colors and like, we're not going to go fancy. We're not going to go all bougie on everybody.
hmm
We got to do something just a little bit different to highlight what we really are about and to sort of demystify what a patroller is. And so I started to think about all these amazing patrollers. They must also be athletes because it is grueling work to be on the mountain, especially if you are a paid patroller and you're there 5, 6 days a week. You've got to be physically fit and you're doing it
hmm
because you love that work. You love to
hmm
ski, you love to ride.
hmm
Like, certainly these guys and gals are out there competing too. I always say, look, I'm not a patroller, but I got 32,000 experts, right? Uh,
Right.
and I'm not an athlete, but I can find the athletes, right? And
hmm
so I was like, I got to find my athlete patrollers out there. And so we decided that the best thing that we can do is to support our patrollers. And by the way, I have 32,000 type A personalities too,
I
because
believe that. Yeah.
we are all type A's, right? Because we love to study and learn and do hard things. We're all so driven. And so I thought, well, then we've just got to highlight these young people, right? And we've got to bring our athletes to the forefront and we've got to showcase what patrolling means to them and why they've invested so much talent and time into this. And we want to support them in their comps, right? And so we came up with this idea that, we were going to launch our own athlete ambassador program. It's never been done at NSP, its own athlete ambassador program. And I wanted it to be diverse. I wanted a mix of men and women, young and old, and across our divisions, across our geography. And I wanted to put that face out there to the world of this is also ski patrol, young, dynamic athletes. And so we went through a competitive process where people had to apply. We're only, I think, going to choose six. This is our inaugural year. We were only going to choose six. We ended up choosing seven because it's just so hard not to like. I got to go back to the budget because I was like, I got to find more because these young people are amazing. We do have one midlifer, which is awesome because
Great.
like we all can still be athletes
Absolutely.
and compete. Lindsey Vonn just turned 40, I think.
I
So
know. On a replaced knee.
right? She's
Yeah.
so incredible. And so I was like, yeah, all right. So we're going to launch this. Well, the one thing that we also did that I am just so incredibly proud of is we have an athlete ambassador on staff who is our education director. Her name is Maddie Miller. She is also a patroller and she is a competitive athlete in mountain biking and skimo. And
Mm.
so we've never had an employee athlete. We've never had this before, ever. And so she was also chosen as our employee athlete. And so we're going to follow them this year through all of their comps. We're supporting them financially through their comps. They're going to have ski patrol armbands and stickers, and we're going to be there when they're there. We're going to cheer them on. They're going to tell their stories. Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing program, but this is our first stab at it. And I just couldn't be more excited. And I got to meet them all. And oh my gosh, they were adorable. And so I just love them because they're just so driven and humble. You look at their profiles and their comps and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. So one of them, he's I think the snow safety director at Loveland. And I had to go to the patrol director, who's a friend of mine, who's also NSP leader. And I had to kind of convince him to let him apply because he's like, I don't want it to take away from his patrol duties. And I was like, but this is
Right.
awesome. And this guy's a snowboarder and he's a free ride competitor, like
Mhm.
and so yeah, I'm so tickled. I really am. So you all should follow them, find them on NSP on our website. You can find them under Explore Athlete Ambassadors. You can find them through our social media channels and follow them on Instagram and stay tuned and see how we do.
And that's really fascinating. As an athlete myself, anytime someone gives you money, it's a really big deal. So it's easy to get gear. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's hard to even get gear, is the truth. But to actually get somebody to pay you is enormous. And in general, athletes will be quite loyal to whoever gives them money because it's invaluable. And if when you actually are getting money to do the sport and the competitions that you love, that translates so directly to making you feel more powerful and validated. And so I really like that you guys are doing that. I really wish there was more money. There used to be more money in this industry. There's a lot less now. So that National Ski Patrol is stepping up to do that kind of support is really powerful. And I know that everybody, all those seven people are feeling really great. And we should do stories about them on Snowbrains. Let's
I'm
both make a mental note because that's kind of easy. We could do one for each person
copy.
because that's the whole goal, right? Is to show National Ski Patrol is supporting this kind of incredible behavior and performance in our industry. And one thing I'd say too, just as an unwanted consultation, a lot of ski patrollers are helicopter ski guides in Alaska, and
Yes, they
they probably would maybe need financial support, but they would be worth highlighting, I bet, as well, because a lot of them are just incredible athletes, and a lot of women that I know that
yes,
guide in Alaska will also be ski patrollers. And so I
yes,
think that's, and to be honest, the reason they become helicopter ski guides in Alaska is because they have the National Ski Patrol training. So that training is very relatable. So they know how to move safely through the mountains, they understand avalanches, they understand snow safety, and they're also terrific medical personnel. That combination is what you're looking for in a heli skiing situation. Really cool that you guys are doing that.
Well, and a lot of people didn't know that to enter these comps, it costs money.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, not only do you have to
Mhm.
travel and pay for your hotel, but you literally have to pay to enter the comp. And so we just wanted to give them money to be able to at least afford to be able to compete. And we're hoping that, we're going to bring on other sponsors. So we'll have co-sponsorship going forward in the next few years. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And like you said, they're highly trained. So during their comp, somebody gets injured, they're patrollers, they can help their fellow competitors too, which is really exciting. I wanted to, you just mentioned Alaska. I was just there.
Oh,
We
cool.
got patrollers in Alaska and at Alyeska, which is just a phenomenal place.
Very
Um,
cool place.
Absolutely right that heli skiing there is right. It's part of the industry. We have more avalanche instructors in Alaska for that division than any other division, like because of that. And they come, just like you said, to ski patrol get trained, right? So these heli operations are really important to the Alaska economy. They're important to skiing and to the ski industry. And so a lot of these guides come to NSP to get trained so that they have that medical knowledge and background. So thank you for highlighting that. They are super important to us too.
Yeah, I mean, these are all incredible people. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Patrol because of what they do and how they've helped me personally and helped a lot of my friends. And yeah, it's really neat to have these people who are very athletic, very knowledgeable about snow science and mountain terrain, and then also have this great medical background. And to be honest, even mountain guides don't have the kind of medical background that ski patrollers have because as we went over the numbers, they're seeing 200,000 injuries a year, emergency room level. And so these people have a lot of lapse and they have a lot of time putting into actual incidents where people are actually hurt, and where, mountain guides and a lot of other people in the mountains, it does happen, but, maybe it's a couple a year, if that, where these people are seeing a couple a day. There's a big difference there and how professional and just adept these people are at handling injuries. So all that combined makes these incredible mountain athletes really, really valuable to be around. And I am curious, with all of this going well, what might be some of the challenges that it faces the National Ski Patrol today? You sort of mentioned that you're trying to rebrand a little bit. What else is going on that might be a challenge for you in the National Ski Patrol, and how do you plan to address those challenges?
So cliche, but I always see a challenge as an opportunity, right?
Yes.
And so we talked about recruiting, talked about a little bit of brand refresh, I think. Renewal is actually what I like to call it, a renewal. My personal challenge as CEO is that I want to move faster than the organization can move.
Mm.
And so I have to honor and respect this incredible legacy that we have and our incredible, we have so much attention to our courses and our training and risk management. We have instructors and instructor trainers and instructor of records, and we are so thorough about
Hmm.
everything that we do. But often that can come in conflict with somebody like me who's like, and let's do this, and let's do that, and I've thought about this, and let's, and I have
Hmm.
to go back to say, well, do our bylaws or our policies actually enable this? And so I think, just sort of some of the administrative stuff we're working on to make it a more efficient, effective organization so that we can move a little bit faster, maybe not as fast as I would in a startup environment, right?
Hmm.
Or as a solopreneur. I've got a lot of people to consider and I've got a lot of history and policies to consider. But boy, I love throwing out initiatives and I love coming up with stuff,
You,
right?
you sound like a CEO.
Oh, gosh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, but all of that is workable, right? I have an incredible board. I have an incredible staff. I think over the past 2 years, I've hired, I don't even know, 7 people, eight, nine, 10. I don't even, like I have been building my team and they're so dedicated and smart and hardworking and talented. And they've drunk the Kool-Aid too because they go through all the training. I just had 2 people last year went through all of our avalanche training. I'm going through our own avalanche training.
Oh, that's
I've
great.
had people we go through our refreshers. We have 4 OEC, what we call them, outdoor emergency care technicians on staff. We have a patroller, 2 patrollers on staff. It's so important that recognize them because they are the people behind the organization making it happen. And so, yeah, so I think, at first year or two, the challenge was just to, really be quiet and to listen. And I did. I listened a lot, traveled and listened. And so now that I've got some ideas and things formulated, opportunity is to get them to see the light of day. I would love to see, for example, all patrollers, no matter what area you're in and what division you serve and under the NSP shield. So, there are still some ski areas that aren't part of National Ski Patrol. I have an open invitation to those ski areas to join us or rejoin us, come
Hmm.
around for the ride because it's going to be great and we're doing great things. And so, yeah, my long-term vision is to have every patroller under the shield.
I love that. And it's because you said there's around 32,000 people that are ski patrolling under your shield. So do the professional ski patrollers, are they under your shield as well? Those are separate. And you said there's only about 5,000 of them.
Yeah, so
Okay.
membership wise, we have 5,000 professional paid. In that, it's kind of wonky. It's sort of internal baseball. It might be too much information for you, but
I
um,
love all the nerdy details.
so we have 5,000 full-time paid professionals in our professional division on
Mhm.
rosters. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we don't have other paid patrollers. They're just in other geographic divisions, but this is particularly the professional division. But, it doesn't mean like, so take a big ski area out here out west. They may have 20 ski patrollers, typically in their leadership, right? As
Mhm.
members of NSP, getting all of our training and information and everything else. But the rest of their line patrollers may not be members of NSP.
Ah,
And
interesting.
so my goal is to get them all to be members of
Mhm.
NSP because we're offering so much more than we ever have before. Forums with subject matter experts and more professional development courses, more mental health training and awareness. I just keep piling it on. So
Good.
to make it worth their while and to have them, say, yes, that's a great ROI. I want to be part of that organization because they're doing great things and they're being led in a really effective way. And how can we say no?
Well, I love that we're getting to see the nuts and bolts here, under the hood, and it does make me so curious about, so what does membership mean? Do they pay, and then how does the money work? Because I know you guys are a 501c nonprofit, correct? So how does your funding work?
Really good questions and
Well,
some
thank you.
nitty gritty stuff here.
I think
So
that's people are curious about because people don't know. You just see the cross and you're like, all right, patroller, and
yeah,
then there's
exactly,
that's it.
right? So to
Mhm.
be a member, it's about $100 a year. We have different membership tiers, let's say. So like if you're currently, and I say that these are the magic words I use at this
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
because for me, everything's an evolution. So at this time, to be a member of National Ski Patrol is about $100 if you come in as a volunteer. To take our training of outdoor emergency care, which is about 80 to 100 hours, it's online and it's in person, is $150. And that's $250 right there.
$150 for that class is very cheap, by the
It's
way. So if for our listeners, that's dirt cheap.
Let's use the word affordable.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Okay. Very
incredibly,
economic.
it's incredibly economic. When you look at, what does it cost to be an EMT? It's
Oh
thousands of
yeah.
dollars and
Hmm.
refreshing. And it's
Hmm.
still not fit. It's fit for purpose, but we believe our OEC is fit for purpose. It was made for ski patrolling, made to be in these environments. So yes, it is quite a bargain. And then for those in the professional division, it's $80. They tend to use our training a little bit less because they have their own on mountain training more. So for
Hmm.
example, like if you're at a true volunteer mountain run by volunteers, they will all be OEC, outdoor emergency care trained technicians. They will often also go through ski training, they'll go through toboggan training. I mean, come on, that's our tool. It's a
Hmm.
transportation system. And so once you pay that $100 to be a member, you get all this training for free, online and in person. What better deals out there right now? I don't know.
No, that's incredible.
And so yes, so the benefits, are all the training online and in person. As a ski industry kind of heavyweight, we also have a position where we can provide leadership to the industry. We can advocate to some degree, right, for the community. So for example, we just did an incredible, gosh, I have a whole committee of attorneys. We just did an incredible response to OSHA to exclude ski patrollers from fire brigade standards. Huge benefit to the industry for us to take a stance on this. So we do a lot of that type of work almost behind the scenes, but I'm happy to talk about it sort of with you today because I think it is just a huge value add.
Because I don't understand what that means. So yeah, what does them being excluded from fire brigade mean?
So it just means, when the government, so OSHA, right, a government entity, occasionally looks at, all their standards that they create and recently said, oh, well, we're interested in these old fire brigade standards. And could we put now ski patrol under these standards? And what that would mean would be talking about how they need to be physically fit and trained and how they're going to mandate, mental wellness and all this other stuff. And we were just like, no, we don't need more standards. We are a self-regulating industry. We are
Hmm.
our own self-regulated industry. We need to exclude that. We are a public service. We
Hmm.
provide a public good. We are outside any of that stuff. And so we created a 10-page brief that we submitted to that entity, to that organization, just said, here's all the reasons why. And we did it in conjunction with NSAA, National Skiers Association, and it was powerful. And that's just one of the benefits that you get as a member of NSP, that we do these things on behalf of the patrolling industry. The other things are, obviously we have a J1 visa program. We love to get patrollers to exchange knowledge and information.
Right.
And that's a very difficult program to get through the State Department. But we love to get patrollers from Argentina to come up
Mhm.
to Snowmass, or folks from Eldora to go to Japan. We want to create this knowledge exchange and help that international exchange of ideas and skills. So we do all of that. We have, of course, pro deals. Everybody's getting pro deals these days, but we have really one specific to patrollers, and the percentages are a little bit better. So if you're a member, you get, maybe where you would get 30% at one platform, maybe with us, you get 40 to 60. And then, we do forums. We bring all these subject matter experts. So if you have anybody that you would suggest that maybe our patrollers want to hear from, I know you just had the gentleman from CAIC on, and he was great.
He's amazing.
And so might have to invite him to one of our patrol forums. So the list just goes on, right? And I just keep adding to the benefits for that $100 membership fee.
No, that's incredible. And just for our listeners, OSHA is basically the government regulation. I think it's occupational safety and health organization that they're working with. And then pro forms are just basically discounts you get from retail brands, so you can get skis for a good chunk off, which is a huge benefit because patrollers will go through probably a couple pairs of skis a year. But then I am still curious, how do you folks fund? How does the money work, the National Ski Patrol?
Yeah, so the majority of our money is raised through member dues, and it is a little bit limiting if you have a CEO who's focused on growth. So one of my goals is to diversify revenue streams. I think about 14% comes from sponsorships, which is great. So our sponsor media partners are really important to us. Just signed a huge, great sponsorship with Mammut this
They're
past year.
great.
They are official uniform partner now. I mean,
Mm,
talk about a sturdy, made for patrolling uniform. Couldn't get better than that. And of course, on the Avalanche stuff, right, with their transceivers and probes, we're just so happy to bring all their technology and their outerwear and stuff to our patrollers. So yeah, sponsorships are incredibly important to us. We do a little bit of fundraising. So if anybody's listening and they want to donate to National Ski Patrol, please do. They are your first responders. They are in your community. They are keeping you safe on the mountains. So we do some fundraising. And to be honest, part of my strategy is to start to monetize a little bit more our own education courses eventually for the public. So
nice.
I think it's going to be really important. Like you had mentioned, mountain guides, search and rescue, river rafters. All of our courses are so critical for the work that they do too. They can take our courses as associates, but I'm starting to look at different customer segments and different revenue streams because I really think that that's where some of the growth is. Our AVI awareness courses are free to the public, but they do it a lot for our patroller community. Level 1 Avalanche is more substantial than our American Avalanche Association partners want us to have it be. So it is a
Hmm.
substantial level 1 course. I'm kind of looking ahead across the horizon to see how we could make this available to the public. I think that some of these commercial providers, those courses are upwards of $800, right?
Right.
Becoming unaffordable, right? For
Well, they
ski
could be a
bums.
barrier to entry, and that's not what we need in
It's a
this industry.
it's not
Yeah.
what we need.
No.
And so as a public service, public safety organization, I think if I can make our level 1 avalanche course available to the public, let's say at a price point half that,
Hmm.
it would be an incredible benefit to the public.
And I've noticed that people are reaching out to me all the time asking where they can get an avalanche course because they're full.
And they're full. So
Hmm.
the interest is skyrocketing.
Hmm.
We don't have enough providers of it. And so, I've currently have almost 400 AVI instructors. My
Wow.
challenge, which is an opportunity, is how do I get from 400 to 1,000?
Right.
And how we maintain our focus on making sure that our line patrollers have the avalanche awareness and skills that they need to perform their duties And if we have excess instructional capacity to now use that for the public. So this is the fun stuff that I'm also thinking about and working on.
You got a lot going, and just for our listeners, and so let us know how we can help at Snowbrains, because like I think that one good place to start is the athlete profiles, because that sounds like what's one of your big messages right now. But let us know, because I'm just doing the math in my head really quick. If you have 32,000 paying members, that's only $3.2 million. So you guys, obviously you have some other money coming in. So it's not like the ski patrol has money. So anything we can do to help them out, because all they do is help us out. Let's reciprocate and figure out how we can get more money flowing your way. And so, yeah, if anybody's listening cares to donate, please do, because the things that these people do, if you're actually on the hill and you see what they do for very injured or not very injured people, but especially some of the big injuries, it's incredible how adept and professional and good at their jobs these folks are. Mhm.
Miles, because that means so much. Like it gives me goosebumps that people care.
Oh,
Right?
well, I'm
Sometimes I'm
glad.
like, do people care? Like, yes.
Oh
Um,
man, ski patrol's a big deal, and a lot of my closest friends are ski patrols. Like what I hear at Palisades Tahoe, when I am around skiing, I know a lot of these people that are working here.
yeah, awesome. And I'll be out there in, I think, January or February, I can't remember, for a huge conference in skiing.
Oh, well, let me know.
So I'll let you know, maybe we can make some turns together.
Let's do it.
But we had an incident over Thanksgiving and at one of our ski areas in Utah. And we have, this gives me goosebumps. And
Mm,
I go to these, okay, I'm going to tell you this. So I go around to our divisions. We have like 8 divisions. And I go to their award ceremonies at the end
hmm
of the season. And I swear we're all crying because these stories are just like so moving. At our partner ski area, Brighton, we have a husband and wife patrol team, and they have been patrolling for decades there, Mark and Kristen. And they were over Thanksgiving, they're on duty and they were skiing. And there was a young man who was skiing down a steep slope and fell on the rocks and went unconscious. And Mark
mm,
and Kristen were right there immediately and started to administer CPR, revived him, got him in a toboggan, and got him down
incredible.
in an ambulance and to a hospital. That's just one little, right? And they just showed up for duty the next day and the day after that. And this was a husband and wife team that have been, he's a outdoor emergency transportation instructor, and so is she. They're highly trained patrollers. They have volunteered forever. He's now our division leader for our Intermountain division. And when I heard about that, it just warms your heart and breaks your heart at the same time because you think about
Mhm.
the young man. But my goodness, how lucky he was that those two people were right there and able to revive him and save his life right there on the rocks.
If our listeners don't know, people that survive, if giving CPR to somebody works something like 1% of the time, it's like it's very rare that that actually works without a defibrillator, without having the machine there. So that these people, were so pro that they got him revived probably without a defibrillator right there is very impressive. That's not something that anybody can do. And again, so I meant to say it or I alluded to it, but a lot of people that I know, including myself and a lot of others, some of the most meaningful, important moments of their life are experienced with a ski patroller, because these are traumatic injuries, and especially for as a person, this is something that changes your life entirely, and it's probably the most potent story you have to tell in your life, and there was a ski patroller there helping you in a very significant way. So what they do is very meaningful, and if anybody or you has experienced an injury at a ski resort, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These injuries change our lives, and these people do such a good job at making the outcomes better than they could have been.
You said it extremely well. Thank you.
And the National Ski Patrol recently opened its ranks. We can go over this quickly to emergency medical technicians and wilderness first responders. And I'm just curious, it seems like a good way to throw a little bit bigger net and get more people potentially in your recruiting vein.
Yes, very good point. Back in August, we made a monumental decision, which was to include in our membership ranks those in the EMS world. So AEMTs, EMTs, and paramedics. That is recognizing the need for ski areas, and particularly large ski areas, often to recruit faster than they can right now on the sort of recruit, train, deploy cycle. And so to allow them within the EMS world to now add those EMS patrollers to their rosters under membership at NSP. So again, inside baseball a little bit, but for 85 years, National Ski Patrol has been really the national OEC ski patrol. That is our credential. That is the patrolling credential that was started ski patrol and that we held for 85 years and still do and constantly update it. But we have also recognized that there are patrollers in ski areas that are patrolling with the EMS credential. And so we want to recognize that, bring them under the membership umbrella of NSP so that they can also receive all the member benefits that the other patrollers do. So
Well, I
yes.
think that's great. Yeah. And it's just, and you're casting a wider net, right? I personally, a lot of mountain guides have the wilderness first responder. So that just makes it a little bit more fluid for us to become a national ski patroller. And in that same ideology, if someone wants to become a national ski patroller, what should they do? What are the first steps?
So allow me just to go back and just correct one thing. The
Yeah.
wilderness first responder right now, at this
Hmm.
point in time, we have not opened up the membership to.
Okay,
We
good. That's good to know.
Yeah, we're just re-reviewing it. Like I said, this is an interesting industry, litigious type of industry. This is an industry with a lot
Mm.
of risk. And so we are just being incredibly thoughtful, intentional is my favorite word, careful what we do. So at this point in time, we're holding on the wilderness first responder, but we are welcoming those full patrols that have EMS personnel on them.
And that makes sense because EMS is a higher level.
It's quite different, right? You have
Hmm.
sort of the OEC world and the EMS world. A
Yeah.
lot of our OEC technicians are EMS trained, but they operate, right? Their duty of care and training is on the OEC side. So, what was your last question?
No, thank you for clarifying that because yeah, that's what we're getting into, the nitty gritty. So my kind of one of my last questions here is if someone wants to become a ski patroller, a national ski patroller, what should they do? What are their first steps?
Perfect. Yeah, this is a great one to end on. I encourage everybody to start local.
Hmm.
Go to your local ski area, go into the medical aid room, go into the patrol hut. They welcome you. You're allowed to go in there. It shouldn't be intimidating
Yeah.
and say, hey, I love what you do. How might I be a part of this?
Hmm.
And they will just be so happy to hear that, right?
Hmm.
So you can go to our website to learn all about patrolling and the benefits and everything else, but you really got to start local and start there with your local patrol. They will do a couple things. They will encourage you to ski with them or to shadow them. They will then encourage you to go ahead and take your OEC as a candidate. So then that's how you kind of start to interact with the national part of it. And then they will do your OEC training and your ski training, your ski test, and off you go. So I do like to say that all patrollers are local. Really, the true affinity, the true allegiance is really to the local patrol. And we're like the intel inside, right? We'll provide all the training and the curriculum and the education, but it's really where it all happens is at your local ski area.
That's terrific. And are the OEC classes relatively frequent? There's a handful of them every year.
So that's the timing, right? So that's the timing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people, like, if you're interested, okay, so this is December. It's going to be really difficult for you to hop on a patrol right now if you have to go through OEC training because we call it the training and refresher season has just concluded, which happens in the fall.
That's what I was guessing.
So what
Mhm.
you need to do is to contact your patrol now, do some skiing with them, do some learning so that by, let's say, spring, then you can start to, you can do a spring ski test, you can do spring ski shadowing. And then summertime, there's a lot of meetings and training. And then the fall is when we start to do the OEC classes. And for every patroller, you have to refresh every year too. So we do our refreshers and we do the OEC training come fall.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. What's next for you and next for your journey?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm just having a ball. So I love this industry. I love the role that I get to play. I just want to help it so much. I want to help every patroller. As I said, I blame this on my brother-in-law. He patrolled at Aspen Highlands for 28 years. I care so deeply about patrollers. Like he would take his boot off and it was so mangled, right? Like at the end of the day. And I laugh because, and this is a true story, as soon as I joined National Ski Patrol, he retired and went to being the head of the trails.
Oh,
He's
nice.
like, I'm out.
I'm out of here, lady.
I'm out. But one of my favorite humans. Like I said, it's a pleasure. It's a joy. It's a challenge, which is great. It keeps me feeling alive. And what better role can I play than to help the industry move ahead and to be able to ski while I do it?
Well, it's something that's so important for all of us as skiers and riders. So thank you for leading the charge. And thank you so much for coming on the show today, Stephanie. Do you have anything else you want to share here at the end of the show?
Oh my goodness, I think we covered so much. Like this has been fun. And I just, again, I thank you because I'm glad I'm able to share more of the story behind National Ski Patrol and maybe demystify what a patroller is a little bit for your audience. And thank you for all your support.
Well, I think we did that today. So thank you again so much for your time and energy, Stephanie. Have a great rest of the day, and let's try to go skiing in January.
You bet. All right. Take care. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Snowbrains podcast. If you like this podcast, please share with friends and family, and please make sure to subscribe. To find out more about Snowbrains, please visit us at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and more. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast is brought to you by Club Med. Ditch the hassle and embrace the freedom of an all-inclusive ski vacation with Club Med. Their resorts in the European Alps and Canada offer the perfect blend of exhilarating skiing, exceptional service, and worry-free pampering. Enjoy having lift tickets, delicious meals, lessons for all ages, and endless apres-ski fun, all included in one price. While the kids are having a blast at the supervised children's clubs, you can focus on mastering your skiing skills and creating unforgettable memories on and off the slopes. Visit www.clubmed.us or call 1-800-CLUB-MED or call your travel advisor to experience skiing without limits. This episode of the Snowbrains podcast was edited by Liam Abbott. Music by Chad Crouch. And I'm your host, creator, and director, Miles Clark.